me as I was walking in, 31 members of parliament from Royal College. I think I'm going to retire from the Stallion's tent. Please don't. That's where your grit comes in. You might need it. Look, there is a problem in the industry, and we all understand that. When the industry came to the Prime Minister a few months ago and said the plantation companies are in trouble, the factories are in trouble, the government acted on that request, and as you know, estimated 900 million rupees of subsidies have been allocated. The 2% subsidy for the 700 odd tea factories, correct? So the government did not ignore the request that you made. The government did come into your rescue, at least to an extent possible, when you needed our help. But subsidies are not things that are going to sustain your business in the long term. And I totally agree with my friend Rohan when he's very interestingly narrated the story about the class that went from A to F B to F, because everybody wanted to be equal. Everybody cannot be equal. Sunil Hanunet is a great friend of mine, and I'm so glad that he's back in Parliament with us. And as Rohan sat down, he said, Mr. Rohan Fernando, I want to speak next year, and I want to explain to you the competitive socialist economy. But he doesn't have to talk about it because we've already owned it. Because what we are trying to create in this country is what's called a social market economy. We believe that if you work hard and play by the rules, that you should be able to get ahead in life. And that has nothing to do with relaxing because somebody else is delivering for you. We don't believe that by expecting others to work for you, that the government should be good enough to take care of you. We are capitalists, and we don't want to hide that fact. Capitalism is the only ism that works. But also you must not forget that there are the people who work as hard as the owners of the capital, the owners of businesses, the owners of the plantation companies, the owners of the export houses, the owners of the brokerages, but don't necessarily receive what they put in. That's the problem that many countries face. And even in the capital of capitalism, you saw what happened in the last couple of years. Main Street versus Wall Street. Our good colleague from the US Embassy is here as the commercial and economics affairs head. And even in his country, you saw the silent, sometimes not so silent revolution, the sit-ins and all of that. So the UNP has taken into consideration, serious consideration, the fact that labor must also be a part of the equation. Labor cannot be in the appendix or the annexure. Marginal productivity of labor must be equal to wage. Or that is what the theory says. Rohan Fernando, now the serious economist, can always debate me outside the hall over a glass of scotch. But the social market economy, the concept of that is to bring labor also into the equation. Because labor also must be rewarded for the hard work she puts in. She works hard from early morning to late afternoon, but she also must be equally rewarded. Whether it means that she must be paid 1,000 rupees a day is a question that needs to be seriously debated. Whether she must be paid a component of what you get when you sell at the auction, whether that should change with the price that you receive, is a question that needs to be asked. Whether Tondaman and Digambaram should have the total say, and the others, LTE, WE and all the other plantation trade unions, to bargain with you on a fixed price, fixed wage, are things that need to be discussed. And let me assure you, most gentlemen and the few ladies here, that our government is capable of understanding the issues that you face. We are capable of understanding that. Most of our government are made up of members who've been associated with things outside pure politics. People who understand business, people who understand export markets, people who understand investments, people who understand the meaning of taking calculated risks. So I want you to be a little patient with us. Give us a little bit of time, but I promise you that we will be able to appreciate your issues and hopefully together come up with reasonable answers. Now, I started out by saying that the industry was in a bit of difficulty. I looked at the numbers, $680 million for the first 6 months, Krisanta had said. And that was down from $780 million from the previous year. And if you look at the prices at the auction, it was 407 or something like that, as opposed to 477 or something in that context. Not only the prices have dropped, also the volumes have dropped. I also noticed from Krisanta's statements that the share of tea packets have fallen from 51% to 47%, and the share of tea bags had fallen from 9% to 7%. And I also noticed that the share of bulk tea had gone up from 43% to 51%. All this goes to suggest that there is an issue not only on the supply side, as we see it on the ground with the struggles of the plantation companies and the factories, but also a problem on the demand side. And Rohan alluded to the questions earlier, the problems that we are facing with the Russian ruble crisis and the Ukrainian political crisis, and our good friends imposing sanctions on the Iranians and so forth, which I hope would be sorted out soon. All of those have both direct and indirect consequences on the industry. So while we are facing problems at home in terms of cost of production, in terms of labor, in terms of regulation, and let me add, even in terms of spending the cess money, 5 billion rupees I understand as at today, since 2010, have been spent or unspent for the most part. And I'm glad that, without getting personal, that Rohan said that the new bureaucracy is planning to spend that money. Money has no value if it is kept under the mattress. Money has value if it is spent wisely. So, when the time is right, you need to spend it on, and I'm sure our Prime Minister understands that promoting Ceylon tea, promoting the product, promoting the brand is paramount at this point in time. But in talking about the demand, yet there is the Fernando versus Fernando debate. I'm not trying to offend anyone about the hub and about how much should be imported to be re-exported. I am not knowledgeable enough, let me tell you, to take a view on that. But I think the Fernando versus Fernando question should be once and for all addressed. And I was reading, and both Fernandos are dear friends, by the way, that the Russians are now exporting quote-unquote Ceylon teas and buying most of it from Vietnam and China and other places as well. So you see, the problem is rather complex. And that is why I think we have an excellent speaker in Roman Scott to try and give us a little bit more strategy as to how we can perhaps overcome the questions, the problems, not insurmountable, but fairly challenging ones that we face. So I'm not going to take too much more time, but give me a minute or so to quickly tell you that our new government is not going to carry on our predecessors' policies in taking this country forward. We have a new plan. And that plan is based on competitiveness, efficiency, productivity, words that make sense to you. You know that you are competing in the global marketplace, and if you're not efficient, if you're not competitive, you will get nowhere. You take risks, you take challenges, and you put your heart and soul into making your business a competitive one. It has to be the same for a government. A government must make sure the country, not just the industry, is competitive. If we are not competitive, we are not going to go up. We're only going to go down. We understand that. And let me tell you, in the last so many years, and I was watching a CNBC, I can't remember, NBC, ABC, something, YouTube on Mr. Scott here on the day of the election. And the interviewer asks Roman, "Oh, what do you think is going to happen today at the parliamentary, not the parliamentary election, the presidential election? Who is good for business?" And he says, "Well, it's a difficult question to answer. But I think the Rajapaksas are good at delivery. And I want to prove him wrong. And we will prove him wrong. That Ranil Wickremesinghe and the new unity government is better for business than the previous one." And that is because it is going to be an inclusive society, going to be on the identity of Sri Lanka, to bring everybody together on the one hand, and also, like I said before, to make this country the most competitive economy in this part of the world. We're committed to doing that, and at the same time making sure that the lady who comes to work and all the other ladies who work at the apparels, all the other ladies who work in the Middle East, all the other men who work hard are also part of that equation. So thank you.